Wiaan!
It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance.
Hi, you're watching Sports This Week, and I'm Rupha Ramani, bringing you the top stories from the world of sports in the week gone by. We're starting with the news that shook Formula One and Red Bull. Christian Horner was sacked earlier this week, bringing a sudden end to an era. Why this exit, and did the star driver Max Verstappen play a part in all of this? Over in the world of cricket, England is doing all they can to nullify India, from jeers and jibes to even crediting the pitch for India's win. Can the visitors hold on to their nerves in a volatile series under a young captain? Speaking of young captain, South Africa's Wiaan Mulder came under fire after his controversial decision to declare the Proteas innings against Zimbabwe, with him just 33 runs shy of Brian Lara's test record. What reason did he give, and is that a fair one? This even as the cricketing world came down hard on him, including Lara. The newest country to make it to a T20 World Cup could be Italy. Yes, you heard me right. From a town in the country banning the sport entirely to immigrants and foreigners taking Italy forward via cricket. Is this the new future for this country in team sports? Wimbledon, of course, gears up for a great weekend, but not without its fair share of controversies. The new changes incurred the wrath of players and fans alike. Is the oldest Grand Slam stuck in a catch-22 situation of wanting to change but not really willing to? And one more story that just had to feature the death of a young, promising Indian tennis player shot down by her father. It's thrown a spotlight on parental pressure in sport and how that can have severe repercussions. All of this heading your way. Sports can be brutal, ruthless, unforgiving. But if there's one thing it usually gets right, it's honouring a legacy. Alex Ferguson had that at Manchester United, Arsene Wenger at Arsenal, MS Dhoni with the Chennai franchise at the Indian Premier League, but Christian Horner, Red Bull has shoved him right out. The longest-serving team principal in Formula One history at Red Bull since day one, 2005. The one who built the team, built the culture, built champions, gone. No reason, no explanation, just sacked. So much for legacy, isn't it? Or was there something deeper burning in the background? Now let's set the record straight here. Every single title Red Bull has won, Christian Horner was behind it. He crafted the Sebastian Vettel era, 4 straight driver titles. He nurtured Max Verstappen into a machine, another 4 in a row. 6 constructors' titles, molding an F1 empire. But the last 2 seasons, the empire cracked a bit. Outclassed by McLaren, no constructors' title, no championship cushion, and hovering above it all, of course, was the scandal. Allegations of inappropriate behavior from a female employee, cleared twice by Red Bull. No wrongdoing, they said, but the whispers never stopped. The dissent never ceased, and more importantly, neither did the Verstappen camp.
He is playing the victim when he is the one causing the problems. There is tension here while he remains in position. The team is in danger of being torn apart. It can't go on the way it is. It will explode.
Jos Verstappen, Max's father, didn't hold back. That statement, in fact, was a detonation. You didn't need rocket science to read between the lines. The Verstappens weren't happy at all, and when Max isn't happy, Red Bull isn't happy. Today, there is a 60-point gap between him and second-placed Norris. The title race isn't even close. A massive 288-point gap. Another title most likely canned. And suddenly, the rumours swirled Verstappen to Mercedes, fueled by Toto Wolff himself.
When you look at the situation we have with Kimi and George, we have a perfect lineup that we very much enjoy. At the same time, there is a 4-time world champion that needs to decide what he's going to do in the future. As a team principal, you need to see where that is going.
Subtle, slick, strategic. And just as Wolff was dropping hints, Max was dropping bombs of his own.
I always said to the team it would be ideal, and I think they think the same way, to finish off my career in Formula One with one team. I think that would be something amazing, and that's what we are still trying to achieve.
Mixed messaging or a power play move here, because here's what really happened. Red Bull blinked. They chose their superstar driver over the man who built the team. Let's be honest, if Red Bull truly believed Honor was innocent, why sack him now? And if this is just about performance, did they really judge him on 1.5 seasons? 18 years of dominance tossed aside because of one bad year. That's not just short-sighted, it's a dangerous game. Because if Red Bull feel Max Verstappen is going to stay loyal without results, think again. F1 is a very cruel sport and the drivers always want to be with the best team. If the ship sinks, Max will jump. And then what? You've lost your team boss and your star driver too. Christian Horner didn't just build a Formula One team, he tried to build a fortress. And Red Bull just tore it down with one swing of the axe. The question now is simple. Will it be worth it all now? Because if Max Verstappen walks next, Red Bull won't just have a leadership crisis, they'll have an identity crisis. And in F1, there's no pit stop for rebuilding a legacy. India set to play Australia at Lord's. Did I say Australia? It was no slip of the tongue here because it just feels so. It's getting hard to tell if this is a tour to England or a psychological battlefield down under. Any series to Australia is a minefield of mind games, an entire system set to sledge and rile up the opposition, more so if it's India. Here too, the hosts England are doing everything they can to make things as uncomfortable as possible for the visitors. From the media to the captain to fans and now even the management. They've gone from being game changers with baseball to now being sore losers. Classic crybaby act. So what's the latest in the England tantrum saga? Early visuals from Lord's during India's training session shows a green top. Now, some of that grass will of course be shaved off before the toss, but make no mistake, this looks like a seamer's paradise. And guess what? Jofra Archer is back in the mix after 4 long years. England's going to want that ball flying. Now let's be clear, there's nothing wrong in exploiting home conditions. That's cricket. Home advantage, as they say, plays a role. But here's where the hypocrisy kicks in. In the first 2 tests, England set up flat decks to sync up with their baseball playbook. Edgbaston was a batting haven. But when their ultra-aggressive approach failed, did they own up? Of course not.
To be honest, it's probably ended up being more of a subcontinent pitch as it's got deeper and deeper into the game. There certainly is a little bit in it to start off with, and I think we exposed that very, very well early on.
Translation, blame the pitch, not the plan. No accountability, just spin the tail. Something that was missing even on the Edgbaston pitch. And it doesn't stop with Stokes. Even the English media joined the pity parade. When Joe Root was bowled by Akashdeep, a BBC commentator questioned the legality of the delivery.
The delivery from Akashdeep, which we said was wide off the crease, his foot on the back crease is out. Looks like by about 2 inches, maybe a little bit more.
That comment snowballed. Top Indian voices were dragged into the debate until an MCC spokesperson had to step in to finally shut it all down, saying there was no conclusive evidence to show that this was a no ball. But the noise hasn't paused. Neither have the antics. Indian players are getting targeted on and off the field. Crowd jeering, check. Shubman Gill got booed while receiving treatment at Edgbaston during his superb innings. And players like Ben Stokes, he's turned the sledging dial to max. He tried rattling Yashasvi Jaiswal when the youngster was cruising. Jaiswal made 87, got dismissed, but skipper Stokes still sent him off with fire. Now, don't get me wrong, sledging isn't new. It's part of the game. We've seen the best of it from India's Virat Kohli himself. The difference, though, when India lost, Kohli took it on the chin. No excuses, no drama. This England team, far from it. And the irony here, their own experts are telling them to buck up now.
There have been many players who have frustrated fans, including me, but he is right up there as the most frustrating I can remember. He is the player luckiest to have won as many caps as he has. Look at Shubman Gill. He came into this series averaging 35, and 4 innings later he averages 42. He has done that because of his mindset and strategy.
One of the consequences of baseball, though, is their bowlers bowl so quickly on flat pitches and back-to-back matches. They're coming in tired. They look tired and frazzled.
These are the same voices who don't shy away from pointing fingers at India. So when your own former players start questioning you, you know you've got to fix it. While England plays the mind games, let's set the record straight here. This Indian team stays focused. They responded with a thumping win at Edgbaston. They handled all the jeers and the jibes, and if Lords throws up a green deck, they'll be ready. India's coaching staff was seen in deep discussion after assessing the pitch. Bowling coach Mani Mokel was going over the bowling plans, Gautam Gambhir huddling up with the support staff, and Jasprit Bumrah having a quiet but focused word with the ground staff. All signs that this Indian unit is sharp, confident and unbothered. England might throw tantrums, they might cry foul, but India won't play the blame game. They'll fight, they'll adapt, and most importantly, they'll own their game. Now, what's the main tenet of sport, any sport? To win, isn't it? That's what you are taught from the time you start learning to play the game. Do all you can to get your side or your country across the line. In fact, winning is more than what the score sheets tell you. It's a habit that even goes on to become a part of the culture. What are we talking about and why are we talking about winning and team culture here? It's because of what 27-year-old stand-in captain of South Africa, Wiaan Mulder, did yesterday. You're a captain and you're on the cusp of what is clearly a landmark moment in Test cricket. You've amassed 367 runs and have earned every single run in that mammoth individual score. The record for highest individual score in men's cricket in Tests is held by West Indian great Brian Lara, an unbeaten 400 against England back in 2004. A record that has clearly stood the test of time. What would you do? Wiaan Mulder, batting on 367, declared the Proteus innings. Let me set this one up for you first. South Africa men's cricket team is currently playing a series against Zimbabwe. It's by no means a high-octane clash. It's pretty heavily stacked in South Africa's favour, despite a second-string squad there, a country that created history recently by winning its first ICC title in 27 years. The visitors, South Africa here, have in fact won the first test and they look like they're in charge and in control of the second two. South Africa in this second test batted first. Now Zimbabwe did rattle the top order, 24 for 2 at one point were the Proteus with Mulder at the crease. The young batter stood his ground for around 7 hours, played 334 deliveries, struck 49 fours and 4 brilliant sixes, a strike rate that was close to 110. He dominated and at 367 was good to go ahead and do the unthinkable. What many have only attempted to but have not come even close to achieving. Cross Lara's magical 400. And he declares the innings. Remember, it was still day 2. And going by the way he was scoring, 30 more runs wouldn't have taken too long. What did happen is that South Africa's young side, many seniors were of course sitting out of this series as I mentioned earlier, went on to dismiss Zimbabwe for 170 and forced the follow-on. So why then not try and tempt fate when the biggest record was there for the taking? Here's what the captain said.
Well, first things first, I thought we got enough for me to bowl. And secondly, Brian Lara is a legend, let's be real. He got 401 or whatever it was against England, and for someone of that stature to keep that record is pretty special. I think if I get the chance again, I'd probably do the same thing. I know speaking to Shooks, he kind of said to me as well, like, listen, let the legends keep the really big scores. And, you know, you never know what's my fate or whatever you want to call it, what's destined for me. But I think Brian Lara keeping that record is exactly the way it should be.
He, of course, refers to a conversation that he's had with his coach, Shook Conrad, is whom he refers to. But it's astounding, really, especially coming from someone that young. Someone who hasn't really withered the whole years that cricket normally does to anyone who's stayed the course for many, many, many years. Because the records, the stats, they are meant to be broken. Time doesn't stop for anyone and history is meant to be rewritten. So how did fellow South African cricketers, some former and some current, react to this? What about the internet and everyone tuning in to then be shocked by this declaration? A lot of backlash clearly for that sudden declaration. So what is it then about this call? Did the skipper show grace and calm far beyond his age and what is seen in these times to be even believed to push harder for the win instead of a personal milestone? Or was he foolish to let go of a chance that legends have failed to get even close to, let alone scale? On one hand, there is the argument that is most popular, isn't it? You play to win, you play to break records, to set a new bar, a new benchmark every time you step onto the field. It's what you owe to yourself and to your ambition. Because look at the times we live in. A trophy name has been rebranded because no one wants to live in the past anymore. And the idea and concept of resonating with the present is that much more attractive. It's the more vocal option. To take a step back from not doing so, not fulfilling what is lying within your grasp, what you deserve, feels like you've cheated your fans, the audience. You've lost your chance and thrown away a chance at legacy. And then, of course, there is the other side of it all. You see this decision with an objective eye and you think this is what South Africa cricket and South Africa is all about. They want to win, but they want to do it in their own way, their own term. It's a way that feels right for them. It is, after all, a reflection of how they had to fight and endure a world of pain for generations to even get a chance to play the sport itself. So you think maybe this is where it all comes from. A sense of resilience so strong that it astounds you and shocks you as a viewer, a sports lover who watches sport for these big moments, a historic win or a record-breaking feat. Mulder just stumped everyone here. Where do you stand on this controversial call? Italy cricket is on the cusp of making history. They're just one win away from booking their spot for the next edition of the T20 World Cup. And it all comes after a stunning upset over Scotland in the Europe qualifiers. To think just a year ago, an Italian town banned cricket. Reason? The then mayor thought it did nothing for the country. And now it is the foreigners who are starting a sporting revolution in Italy. A massive push for a country that is struggling in a sport they have embraced for years. Is cricket then the way forward for Italy in team sports? Let's dive in.
Cricket is venturing into bold, uncharted territory. The United States has just co-hosted a World Cup. Nepal is turning heads, and now Europe is slowly but surely stepping into the spotlight. Leading that charge, Italy. Their men's team just pulled off a shock 12-run win over Scotland in the Europe qualifiers. Now, all they need is a win against the Netherlands in their final match to qualify for the T20 World Cup. Even if they lose, other results could still swing it in their favour, and Italy could be going to the World Cup. All this from a nation where cricket was once literally banned. Just a year ago, the town of Monfalcone, home to a large South Asian population, banned the sport completely. Why? Because the then mayor claimed it had no place in Italian culture.
Our history is being erased. It's like it doesn't matter anymore. Everything is changing for the worse. They've given nothing to this city, to our community. Zero. They are free to go and play cricket anywhere else, outside of Monfalcone.
But the irony? The very immigrants being blamed are the ones building Italian cricket. In fact, Italy's rise is thanks to players from Australia, England, India, and even Scotland. The 11 that beat Scotland has a diverse background, locals mixed with foreigners and some with Italian heritage. Their current captain, former Australian international Joe Burns.
To come and beat Scotland, who are a fantastic team, is a nice reward for sacrifices our players, staff, and federation have made. Hopefully, this is the stepping stone for a lot to come. Being on the verge of a World Cup, it's very surreal.
So maybe someone should tell the ex-mayor cricket might be the only World Cup Italy plays next year. Because guess what? Their football team may not even qualify. They're third in their group behind Norway and Israel, and they haven't made it to a football World Cup since 2014. Unlike football, cricket seems to be showing the way forward. Sure, they don't have the legacy that football does, but these results are promising. And Italy's cricket board deserves some credit too. They've brought in players with Italian heritage from cricketing nations and welcomed participation from South Asian immigrants. Now, the sport is even catching on with the locals. This isn't a fluke, this is a well-executed system. Look at the United States. They have built their cricket boom on talent from South Asia. You saw that at the T20 World Cup last year. Italy, though, might be different. If they make it to the World Cup, the local fans will take notice. And who knows, maybe cricket becomes the one arena where Italy can finally beat England again. Because right now, their football team isn't offering much hope. When it comes to team sports, maybe cricket is Italy's new calling.
Tennis's crown jewel, Wimbledon, finds itself in a classic catch-22, caught between clinging to tradition and attempting to change, yet somehow getting both sides wrong. For 148 years, Wimbledon has been the guardian of tennis tradition. But this year, the All England club took some big and controversial steps forward. From historic dress code shifts to the removal of line judges, Wimbledon is trying to modernize. But instead of applause, they're facing heat from players, fans, and the wider tennis world. Our next report tells you why the world's most prestigious tennis tournament is under fire.
Wimbledon broke its 148-year-old dress code tradition by allowing players to wear black armbands. A tribute to Liverpool forward Diogo Jota, who tragically died in a car crash. It was a bold and respectful move, and perhaps the only change Wimbledon got right this year. Because everything else, it's gone downhill fast. Let's start with the biggest change, the removal of line judges. Wimbledon joined the US and Australian Opens by introducing an all-electronic line calling system for the first time in 2025. But the execution has been disastrous. Players are calling out the system's credibility, and not without reason. During a women's singles clash between Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova and Sonay Kartel, the tech failed. Multiple incorrect calls went against Anastasia because the system was deactivated for the entire game. Yes, you heard that right, deactivated. Even if a human line judge had been asleep on the job, they would have been more useful than a shutdown machine. But what made it worse? The chair umpire, who should have taken control when the system failed, simply called for the point to be replayed, and Anastasia was livid.
He also saw it out, he told me after the match. Instead, they just said replay. I don't know if it's something to do local. He probably was scared to take such a big decision.
And she's not alone. Other players too are slamming the tech's inconsistency and lack of accountability. But Wimbledon isn't just facing backlash over the tech. Its refusal to bend on old rules is causing just as much chaos. Case in point, Ben Shelton versus Rinky Hijikata, round 2 of the men's singles event. Shelton was about to serve for the match, leading 5-4 in the third set. Then came 9:29 PM and the curfew rule kicked in. Match suspended due to darkness. Shelton protested, but rules are rules. And he had to come back the next day only to finish the match in 1 minute and 5 seconds. He's not alone. Taylor Fritz's round 1 match against Giovanni Impecci Perica was also paused with plenty of daylight left. Momentum matters in tennis. It can shift the narrative. Plus, pausing matches when they could be wrapped up in a minute is not just frustrating, it's disruptive and unnecessary. And the solution is simple. If late night play isn't preferred, fine. But invest in floodlights for exceptions when a set can be wrapped up at least. Wimbledon makes more than enough to afford that. In the end, the tournament doesn't need to abandon its legacy, it just needs balance between tradition and innovation, and maybe an electronic umpire that stays awake. Because right now, neither the old ways nor the new ones are working, and the players are paying the price. Wimbledon calls itself the temple of tennis, but if it doesn't fix the cracks, it might just become a relic of the past.
A horrifying tragedy has shaken the sports world. In the Indian city of Gurugram, a national level tennis player was shot dead by her own father. What triggered it? A reel on social media, a music video appearance, and her refusal to shut down her tennis academy. But here's the disturbing part. This isn't a one-off case. Tennis has seen far too many parental obsessions spiral into abuse, control, and more. And it isn't just in the junior level. The list includes some of the top stars the sport has seen. What is the root cause for this horrifying tale of parental problems in the sport? Our next report takes you deep into the dark side of tennis.
25-year-old Radhika Yadav, a national-level tennis doubles player, was shot dead in her own home by her father. She had been recovering from injuries, but rather than stepping away from the sport, she opened an academy to train the next generation. And that became the problem. Police say her father, Deepak, was overwhelmed by jealousy and shame. Locals mocked him for living off his daughter's earnings. A man unable to handle public taunts and unable to accept his own daughter's growing independence took her life.
He had been upset for a while as he was being taunted by locals over his daughter's income. He was troubled by their remarks. They would keep saying the house is running on her money and he's too dependent on that. He could not take it anymore.
A toxic cocktail of insecurity, bruised ego, and societal pressure. But what fueled this? An Instagram reel and a music video appearance was the tipping point. And unamused by Radhika's refusal to take the reel down, Deepak decided to murder her. Unfortunately, this is not a standalone horror story. Tennis has a long, troubling history of parents pushing their children past the edge, emotionally, physically, and sometimes fatally. Starts with Andre Agassi, one of the greatest to ever play the game. In his autobiography, Agassi revealed he never wanted to play tennis. His father Emmanuel was obsessive and violent, forcing him into grueling training from childhood. Agassi hated tennis so deeply, he turned to crystal meth to escape it. Maria Sharapova. Her father Yuri was her coach and he controlled her. Sharapova once considered quitting the sport altogether just to reclaim her identity.
He knew how to challenge me in the right ways, which in the dynamic of a father-daughter is very hard. How much do you push your child so that they get the most out of this? But they're not in a year or two saying, "No, Dad, you push me so much that I want to leave." So, it's such a fine line.
And then the terrifying case of Mary Pierce. Her father, Jim Pierce, was so abusive that the WTA had to ban him from tournaments. He screamed threats from the stands. He physically and emotionally abused Mary. Eventually, she filed a restraining order against him. Jelena Dokic, now a respected analyst, had her career wrecked by her father Damir, who was violent with her, beating her up with belts. She bravely spoke out about years of violence and psychological trauma. It's a long and painful list. Bernard Tomic, tormented by his overbearing father John. Jennifer Capriati, burned out under her father Stefano's pressure. These stories prove one chilling fact. Tennis seems to have a parenting problem. So what causes this? Parents trying to live their failed dreams through through their children, trying to control what they should only guide. But it doesn't have to be this way. There are positive examples too. Richard Williams, who nurtured Venus and Serena into becoming strong, confident superstars. Imran Mirza, who mentored Sania Mirza with patience and balance, helping her become a 6-time Grand Slam winner. These stories remind us, parents should empower their children, not own them, because when control replaces care and ego replaces encouragement, you don't just lose a tennis career, you lose a child. Radhika Yadav's story is more than a tragedy. It's a mirror held up to every parent who's forgotten the difference between support and possession.